Over the last few decades, something awkward has happened in moral psychology. Researchers set out to understand how humans make moral judgments, not how we say we do it, but how it actually happens in real times, under pressure, with limited information. And across disciplines, methods, and political commitments, they kept finding the same thing. We are not rational moral agents. We do not reason our way to moral conclusions. We feel our way there, instantly and automatically, and only afterwards do we construct reasons that make the judgment sound principles. This isn't fringe work, it's mainstream, replicated, taught, celebrated, and yet, if you read the most influential books in this literature, something strange happens. The diagnosis is devastating. The prescription is reassuring. Today, I want to talk about 5 major books in moral psychology that all identify the same structural problem and then quietly refuse to live with it. Not because the authors are careless, but because the implications are hard to accept. Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind is the keystone text of modern moral psychology. If there's one book responsible for demolishing the idea that morality is primarily a rational enterprise, it's this one. Haidt's early experiments produced a now famous phenomenon, moral dumbfounding. Participants were giving scenarios that violated strong moral intuitions but caused no harm. Consensual incest between adults, eating a dead pet, cleaning a toilet with the national flag and then washing it. People judged these acts as wrong immediately and confidently. But when asked why, the reasons collapsed under scrutiny. No harm, no victim, no coherent justification, just certainty. Haidt's conclusion was simple and devastating. Moral judgment comes first, reasoning comes later, if at all. To explain this, he introduced the metaphor that defines the field. The mind is an elephant and a rider. The elephant is fast, emotional, automatic. The rider is slow, verbal, justificatory. The rider does not steer, the rider explains. Reason is not the engine of moral judgment. It's the press secretary. From there, Haidt develops moral foundations theory, arguing that morality is composed of multiple evolved sensitivities, not a single axis of harm or fairness. Care, fairness, loyalty, authority, sanctity, liberty. Different cultures and political groups weight these foundations differently, which explains why moral disagreement feels not just wrong, but incomprehensible. So far, this is excellent work. It explains why moral argument so often fails, why political debates feel like people talking past each other, why sincerity does not lead to convergence. And then Haidt turns to solutions. His proposal is earnest and humane, more understanding, more dialogue, more humility across moral divides. Listen to the other side, learn their moral language, appreciate their values, which would be fine, except it quietly contradicts his own findings. If moral judgment is intuitive, automatic, and prediscursive, then dialogue does not resolve disagreement. It merely narrates it. Understanding why someone disagrees with you does not make the disagreement disappear. Haidt shows us that reason is weak, parochial, and largely post hoc, then assigns it a leadership role anyway. He introduces the elephant, then tells us to educate the rider. George Lakoff comes at morality from a different angle. He's not a psychologist, he's a cognitive linguist, and that matters because his work isn't about emotions per se, it's about how meaning itself is structured. Moral politics asks a question that, once you notice it, is impossible to unsee. Why do political positions cluster? Why do views on abortion, taxation, gun rights, climate change, and welfare come bundled together as if they were one opinion rather than dozens? These positions have no obvious logical connection, but empirically, they travel as a unit. Lakoff's answer is deceptively simple. Politics isn't organized around policy. It's organized around metaphor. Specifically, he argues that Americans unconsciously understand the nation through the metaphor of a family, and there are two competing family models. On one side, the strict father model. The world is dangerous. Authority is necessary. Discipline builds virtue. Moral strength comes from self-reliance. Protection and punishment are essential. Dependence is failure. On the other side, the nurturant parent model. The world is improvable. Care is central. Empathy builds virtue. Moral strength comes from cooperation. Protection means support. Dependence is contextual, not shameful. Once you map these models onto politics, the clustering makes sense. Gun rights, welfare, policing, immigration, environmental regulation, these aren't independent debates. They are expressions of one moral metaphor applied consistently. The crucial move Lakoff makes is this. These metaphors are not rhetorical flourishes. They are cognitive structures. They operate below awareness. They determine what feels like common sense, what feels like moral clarity, what feels like insanity. And here's the destabilizing implication. If Lakoff is right, then political disagreement is not a disagreement over the facts. It's a disagreement over the moral frame within which facts acquire meaning. There is no neutral language, no unframed argument, no position that floats free of metaphor. Lakoff proves this convincingly, which is why the next move is so revealing. Don't think of an elephant as not a second theory. It's a response to the first. It's what happens when a devastating descriptive account of cognition meets electoral reality. The lesson of the title is famous for a reason. Don't think of an elephant. You just did. Lakoff's point is that the negation reinforces frames. When you argue against a frame, you activate it, you strengthen it, you lose before you start. If you say, we're not socialists, you've already accepted the opponent's terrain. If you say tax relief, you've conceded that taxation is an affliction. Even denial reproduces the metaphor. So Lakoff's advice to progressives is straightforward. Stop arguing within conservative frames. Stop negating their language. Build and repeat your own moral frames. Speak in values, not policy detail. This is effective advice. It works. Entire political consulting industries exist because of it. But notice what's happened. Moral politics dismantles the Enlightenment fantasy of rational deliberation. It shows that reason doesn't arbitrate between worldviews. Frames do. Don't think of an elephant accepts that diagnosis and then quietly pivots. The question is no longer what is true, it becomes which frame wins. Kurt Gray's Outrage sharpens the picture rather than expanding it. Gray focuses on a specific moral emotion, outrage. Why does some behavior feel unforgivable? Why does outrage escalate so quickly? Why does it seem immune to correction? Gray's answer is elegant and empirically grounded. He proposes the dyadic model of morality. All moral judgment, he argues, reduces to a perceived structure of harm, an intention agent causing damage to a vulnerable patient. Agent, action, victim, harm. This structure applies even when no physical harm exists. Violations of purity, loyalty, or authority are still interpreted as harm, just to abstract patience, the community, the sacred, the social order. Outrage intensifies when intentionality is high, vulnerability is salient, and harm is perceived as severe. The crucial word is perceived. Gray shows that outrage creates feedback loops. Once you suspect harm, you start seeing more of it. Intentionality is inferred, ambiguity collapses, evidence is filtered. Outrage is not a response to clear harm. It's a lens that makes harm visible everywhere. This explains moral panics, culture wars, and online pylons far better than appeals to ignorance or bad faith. And then Gray pivots. His recommended is that we learn to recalibrate our outrage, to check our perceptions, to ask whether harm is really present. This sounds reasonable, but it rests on a fragile assumption. If outrage is perceptual, automatic, and self-reinforcing, then there is no neutral vantage point from which to audit it. You can't step outside the loop to correct the loop. Gray gives us a compelling machine model of outrage, then suggests we can manually override it. The mechanism implies inevitability. The prescription assumes control. Joshua Greene's Moral Tribes is the most philosophically ambitious book on this list. Greene accepts the core findings of moral psychology without flinching. He embraces dual process theory. System 1 is fast, emotional, intuitive. System 2 is slow, deliberative, effortful. Common sense morality, he argues, evolved to solve coordination problems within groups. It works remarkably well at that scale, but it fails catastrophically between groups. Different tribes carry different sacred values, different intuitions, different moral triggers. When they collide, there is no internal mechanism for resolution. Greene calls this the tragedy of common sense morality. His solution is bold. For intertribal problems, we must override our intuitions and rely on utilitarian reasoning, maximize well-being, minimize suffering, impartiality. System 2 must lead where System 1 cannot. This is admirable in its clarity. It is also where Greene parts company with his evidence. The same research tradition Greene draws from shows that System 2 is slow, fragile, effortful, and easily co-opted by intuition. People endorse utilitarian principles in the abstract and abandon them under emotional load. Haidt's rider does not reliably control the elephant. It rationalizes it. Greene knows this. His trolley problem research demonstrates it. But he still asks us to trust that at scale, under pressure, across cultures, we can do what individuals demonstrably fail to do. Override intuition. Greene's proposal is heroic and almost certainly unattainable. Step back and look at the pattern. Each of these books uncovers something true and destabilizing. Morality is intuitive, not rational. Reason is post hoc, not primary. Framing shapes perception. Outrage distorts judgment. Tribal instincts dominate. And then, when it comes time to offer solutions, each author retreats. They ask for more dialogue, better framing, careful reflection, outrage calibration, rational override. The prescriptions quietly assume the very capacities that diagnoses undermined. This isn't hypocrisy, it's discomfort, because following the findings all the way leads to bleak conclusions. Moral disagreement may be structural, not solvable. Political conflict may be persistent, not educational. Persuasion may resemble contagion more than argument. These books give us diagnoses without prognosis, and that may be the most honest place to stop. I don't have a solution to offer you either. That's deliberate. If I did, I'd be repeating the same move. But perhaps the first step is simpler. Stop pretending. Stop acting as if one more argument, one more conversation, one more fact check will close the gap. Not because these things are worthless, but because they're insufficient. The elephant is real, and most of us are passengers, arguing about the map whilst it walks. It's not despair, it's orientation. Anyway, I'm out of time. If this was useful, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, be notified, ring the bell, and all that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Cheers.